Hey everyone, it's Naomi Wolf. As promised, I'm back. It's been a little while. I tried to do it every night. I got detoured by the New York mayoral election, and I am back to my promise to read one chapter of the Geneva Bible as often as I can. I'm not going to say every night, but as often as I can, as many nights as I can. So we're picking up again. Geneva Bible, the 1560 Geneva Bible, the Founders Bible, the Puritans Bible, the Bible that was translated very accurately from the Hebrew original by a group of Protestant dissidents working in Geneva. They were English dissidents, but they were working in Geneva at risk of their lives. One was actually martyred when he went back to England. And they did it because they wanted the word of God to be something that any, as they put it, any plowboy could read. And there's never been a translation as accurate as the 1560 Geneva Bible. But after the authorized King James Bible, which is beautiful language, but began many centuries of inaccurate translations, it fell into disuse, but it is a completely different Bible than the authorized translations and modern translations. And that's what this journey has shown that I've taken you on. And now we are already almost, I think, halfway through, which is incredible, Numbers 13. So just to pick up again, those of you who may not remember or who may be joining us for the first time, the children of Israel are still in the desert. They've been in the desert a long time, many chapters. They keep getting it wrong. They keep disappointing God, not obeying God. And obey isn't like you're a robot or a zombie. It's like they keep not aligning with what God wants, which is to walk with humans and to have humans want to walk with him. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. They throw tantrums. Most recently, in Numbers 11, they just threw a tantrum because they don't like the food. God is providing them with manna miraculously. Appears every evening with the dew. It tastes sweet like sesame seeds, but they're bored. It's monotonous. Probably was. And so rather than thinking the creator of the universe is keeping us alive in the middle of the desert with miraculous food, they're like, we miss the flesh pots of Egypt. We miss the leeks that they enumerated. Remember, we miss the garlic. We miss the onions, the savory flavors, the meats, the savory, delicious meals of slavery. And Yahweh doesn't want people to want slavery. Yahweh wants people to want to be free. And you see over and over in these chapters that God really doesn't want blind obedience. God doesn't want Stepford wife, children and families, human families, to just, bow to his wishes no matter what. He wants people to want to be free, and out of freedom to choose to walk with him, to align with him, to trust him, to share with him, to rely on him, to, be open with their innermost concerns and anxieties, but not to kind of rely only on their own judgment about what's best for them, what their preferences are. We see that over and over. But here we are again. The children of Israel are having a temper tantrum, petulant, and God is really fed up. And in the last chapter, you saw that there was fire that consumed some of the children of Israel because they were just resisting in the most infantile way. And actually, it involved Miriam, the sister of Moses and Aaron. And it involved Aaron as well, the priest. As you recall, they were bitching. I'm sorry, that's what they were doing. They were complaining, why does Moshe get to talk to God all the time? Why don't we get to be elevated like Moshe? We are just as important as Moshe, like total sibling rivalry. And they let their egos get in the way of what was best for the children of Israel and God. and God was like, completely fed up. So the children of Israel have been trying God's patience very consistently. He doesn't want to give up on us, but it's been rough. It's been a rough relationship. So here we are at Numbers 13. Things are getting pretty exciting because finally the children of Israel are on the move, right? They've been stationary at the foot of Mount Sinai for quite a while, getting the 10 Commandments, then disobeying. The 10 Commandments got broken by Moses, who was fed up. Then Moses had to go back up again and get another set of tablets. The children of Israel worshiped the golden calf, horrible idolatry. They were partly wiped out. I mean, it's been a drama, and these are drama queens. They just can't get a grip. Now, maybe to be fair, it's the first time in history God's showing up, in a monotheistic way and saying, here, I want you to do this, this, and this. And it's a lot of instructions. So, people are definitely learning how to be in relationship with a monotheistic God. It's a brand new thing in the world. Remember, this is a time when in Egypt they're worshiping cats, and the sun, but God really wants to launch this project. So the exciting thing is, and again, if this is a movie, you would see like the panning out and big screen. The children of Israel are starting to move. They're being given instructions. You go at the front of the tribes, you go to the east, you go to the west, you pick up the rear, you go equidistant to the tent of meeting where God lives, right? His apartment. This tribe carries the curtains of the tent of meeting and the Holy of Holies. This tribe carries the silver candelabra. This tribe carries the showbread and the table that the showbread is displayed on. So they're really getting ready to move into Canaan, move into the promised land. Now, before I start reading, I just want to address something that's going on in the world. And honestly, I think it has a supernatural component. Even since I last shared with you all the last reading, the world has seen an eruption, really even escalating beyond what it had been when I last convened with you, of anti-Semitism, of Jew hatred, hating of Jews. And this is, manifesting from Candace Owens to Tucker Carlson to bots aplenty. Even an old acquaintance of mine, erupted in horrible just hatred and hostility toward Jews and Israel on social media. And Jews and Israel are not the same thing, of course. But it's like erupted all over the world at once. And, we're in a time where globalists and communists and people attacking the West kind of get a memo and they do everything at the same time. I think AI has a role in this too. But, you're getting like professors in British universities reviving medieval blood libels about Jews, that they sacrificed children for Passover bread. And you're getting professors of Judaic studies at Harvard who say, I would never go to a synagogue, and you get, this was shocking to me, Oxford Union at Oxford University, my alma mater, where I was a graduate student twice and a Rhodes Scholar. The Oxford Union has a 130-year history of being a center for debate. I mean, that's what happens at the Union. You debate, pro, con, you hear all sides. They would not platform Ehud Olmert, the former prime minister, president of the state of Israel. And they were holding up bloodied hands, like red painted hands, like that was cute, in this sacred chamber, sacred to free inquiry, open debate, freedom of speech. So things are getting very, 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 very scary. Zoran Mamdani was elected, and he's appointing vicious anti-Semites, not just anti-Zionists, but anti-Semites. So, and this is happening all over the world. And actually, I think, and my husband, Brian O'Shea, has shown me where the money is flowing. This is quite deliberate. Conservative Jews and Christians used to have a strong alliance with each other. We didn't always agree on everything, but, we were a solid block. and spiking of this vicious anti-Semitism. Excuse me. I mean, Fuentes literally said Team Hitler on social media is designed, says Brian and other smart commentators, to splinter, to divide the conservative strength of Christians and Jews working together. And sure, it's fair to criticize money going to Israel if you're America first, which I am, but also money goes to Turkey, money goes to Oman, money goes to Saudi Arabia, money goes to Egypt. Um, so it's very, very interesting that that's being really singled out. Uh, so that is erupting all over the world, and it's really scary. I mean, I will just say, as a Jew, it is scary. As a Jew who lives, much of the time in New York City, I expect it to get worse before it gets better. Jewish students are being attacked in Britain. Um, there's this eruption of like fundamentalist Islam in Dearborn, Michigan, in parts of New York, in parts of Detroit. It's kind of this demonstration of strength by fundamentalist Islam, and there's no reason, Islam and Judaism and Christianity can't all get along, but this is like a very kind of extremist uh, demonstration of strength, and the language used these days, targeting Israel from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. It's different than language that used to be used about peace between two states, a two-state solution. It's really kind of genocidal language, just wipe them off the map. So I do think there's a supernatural component to this. And why? I don't know why, but I think it's very, very interesting. At the same time, there's an incredible revival going on. People are returning to church, people are returning to synagogue. Chabad is booming. People are going to Chabad. I go to Chabad when I'm in New York. It's like more and more crowded every time I go, and not just Jews, non-Jews as well. So I think we're in really a time where people are, choosing. They're going to either be with God or not be with God. And I just think that it's very interesting that God's people, not that, let's talk about that, that the children of Israel are being singled out. Now, before I launch right in, The Guardian actually had an article like criticizing Jews for thinking they're the chosen people. And in the anti-Semitic kind of memes I'm seeing on social media, and even in this long conversation I had with an acquaintance of mine who posted really anti-Semitic content, this issue came up. You guys think you're the chosen people. You guys think you're the chosen people. Well, before I jump in, I really just want to say that is not accurate. It's not accurate. And if you're following the Geneva Bible readings, you know perfectly well that it's not accurate. We didn't come up with the idea that we are the chosen people, like better than anyone else. That's not what any of that meant. Because you've been hearing it from me in the Hebrew, right? And in the accurate Geneva Bible, that chosen means like singled out for a lot of very difficult responsibilities, and used, as I keep saying, as a kind of exemplum, a kind of trial run, a kind of demonstration, like in a supermarket where you demonstrate a potato peeler, right? That's how God is using the children of Israel to show the rest of the world, the nations. And by the way, goyim just means nations. That's what it means, you guys. It doesn't mean anything bad or insulting. Goy is a nation. Goyim is the plural of nations. It just means like other tribes, other families of humans, other nations that are not the children of Israel. That's what it means. So don't be offended, okay? But that it wasn't the children of Israel who were sitting around saying, hey, let's call ourselves the chosen people. No, it wasn't our idea. We didn't like it. We kept running away from it. We didn't want the responsibility. We didn't want to follow the commandments. We didn't want to give up the worship of idols. We didn't want any of it. We kept resisting. Yahweh said, you guys have this role. I am choosing you for this role. What is the role? The role is to fulfill 613 commandments as a way of blessing the world with this example of being in relationship with God. And, history proved that God was right. He kept saying, I'm going to bless you, I'm going to bless you, so that the nations of the world can be blessed through you. I'm going to make you like the sands on the beach and the stars in the sky, so that the world will be blessed through your seed. And if you're Christian, that's what happened. You guys, God told the truth. That's exactly what happened through the descendants of Jesse and David. As God predicted, a Messiah, if you're a Christian, was born of that lineage, just like God kept saying over and over and over in the Hebrew Bible. And the blessing of the Ten Commandments, monotheism, a moral life, was brought to the Goyim, the children of other nations, the rest of the world, who were not the children of Israel, through that seed, through that descendant. That's what chosen means, you guys. It wasn't our idea. We're not saying we're better than anyone else. It was God singling out a tribe and saying, you guys have these responsibilities because you are going to play this role in history. You're going to be the means whereby you are going to demonstrate what it means to be in alliance with a monotheistic God, the God of Israel, and then through you, all the nations of the world will be blessed. Okay, and he meant Jesus by that, it appears, if you're Christian. So I hope that everyone is listening, because I'm kind of getting tired of this. That's what chosen means. It's like someone in war is chosen to be an advance guard to scout out where the enemy camps are. That's not fun. You don't want that, right? But if you're chosen for that job, in a war, and you're following a chain of command, you have to do it. And through that, other people are blessed with the information you bring back. That's the kind of role that is. And again, over and over and over, the children of Israel do not want this. They don't want to be the chosen people. They just want the flesh pots of Egypt. They want the golden calf. They're sick of all of this. So it's not a fun thing. It's not an ego thing. It doesn't mean anyone is better than anyone. It's God saying, this is your job, and it's not a fun job. But through this lineage, indeed, God was true to his word, and the whole rest of the world got a Messiah. All right, so I hope that's clear. And there's lots of comments, but I just wanted to get that off my chest. Thumbs up from some people. Other people are having trouble hearing me talk about religion. I'm not talking about religion, by the way. I'm talking about God and the Bible. I think it's different. But people who are following this podcast a long time know that one of the themes that arises with the Geneva Bible is that religion and God and the Bible are very different. Organized religion often deviates. Modern Jewish, modern Christian often deviates from what the Hebrew Bible has to say. Okay, so let's just jump right in. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Let's see. I'm going to share my screen in the following way. Bamidbar. I'm sorry. I'm having trouble sharing my screen. So maybe I will cancel that and just go ahead and read. And here we are in the PDF of Numbers 13. If you are reading along, I wanted to not, it's trying to record the screen and audio, and I don't want it to do that. So I'm going to ignore that. It's new computer. Sorry, guys. Open 1560 Geneva Bible PDF and go to Numbers 13, and we can read along together. All right. And remember, there's always a sub-headline in the Geneva Bible, which is not in the original. So chapter 13, certain men are sent to search the land of Canaan. They bring the fruit of the land. Caleb comforts the people against the discouraging of the spies, of the other spies. All right. So this is a very interesting chapter. Then afterward, the people removed, meaning they moved, they got up and moved, from Chatzerot and pitched, meaning pitched their tents in the wilderness of Paran. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Send you men out to search the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel. Of every tribe of their fathers shall you send a man, such as are all rulers among them. So send the princes of the tribes. Then Moshe sent them out of the wilderness of Paran at the commandment of the Lord. All those men were heads of the children of Israel. Also their names are these: of the tribe of Reuven, Shamu, the son of Zachor; of the tribe of Shimon, Shaphat, the son of Chot; of the tribe of Yehuda, Caleb, the son of Yefuneh; of the tribe of Issachar, Igal, the son of Yosef; of the tribe of Ephraim, Oshea, the son of Nun; of the tribe of Benjamin, Paki, the son of Raphu; of the tribe of Zevulun, Gadiel, the son of Sodi; of the tribe of Yosef, to wit, that is to say, of the tribe of Manasseh, Gadi, the son of Sufi; of the tribe of Dan, Amuel, the son of Gemali; of the tribe of Asher, Setur, the son of Michael; of the tribe of Naphtali, Nachbi, the son of Vophsi. I may have some of these names a little wrong, and if so, we'll correct them in the Hebrew, because the pre-Elizabethan text is quite difficult to read if you don't know what you're looking for, like with proper names. Of the tribe of Gad, Geuel, the son of Machi. These are the names of the men which Moshe sent to spy out the land. And Moshe called the name of Osea, the son of Nun, Yehoshua, Joshua, meaning God will save you. So Moshe sent them to spy out the land of Canaan and said unto them, Go up this way toward the south and go up into the mountains and consider the land, what it is, and the people that dwell therein, whether they be strong or weak, either few or many. Also, what the land is that they dwell in, whether it be good or bad, and what cities they be that they dwell in, whether they dwell in tents or in walled towns. So, a weak city or a strong city, and what the land is, whether it be fat or lean, productive or difficult to cultivate, whether there be trees therein or not, and be of good courage, be cheerful, be brave, and bring of the fruit of the land, for then was the time of the first ripe grapes. So they went up and searched out the land from the wilderness of Tzin unto Rehov to go to Hamat. And the note says, which was in the wilderness of Paran. And they ascended toward the south and came unto Hebron, where were Ahuman, Sheshai, and Talmai, the sons of Anak. And a Hebron was built 7 years before Zoan in Egypt. Then they came to the river of Eshcol and cut down thence a branch with one cluster of grapes, and they bore it upon a bar between two. And you've seen that image, like two men carrying one branch with a giant cluster of grapes, and brought of the pomegranates and of the figs. That place was called the river Eshcol because of the cluster of grapes which the children of Israel cut down thence. Then after 40 days, they turned again from searching of the land, and they went and came to Moshe and to Aaron and unto all the congregation of the children of Israel in the wilderness of Paran to Kadesh, and brought to them and to all the congregation tidings, news, information, and showed them the fruit of the land. And they told him and said, We came unto the land whither you have sent us, and surely it flows with milk and honey, and here is of the fruit of it. And that's where that beautiful expression, flows with milk and honey, comes from, right here, Numbers 28. Nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and exceeding great, very large. And moreover, we saw the sons of Anak there. And I'm sorry, there. The Amalekites dwell in the south country, and the Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea and by the coast of Jordan. Then Caleb stilled the people before Moshe and said, "Let us go up at once and possess it, for undoubtedly we shall overcome it." But the men that went up with him said, "We be not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we." So they brought up an evil report of the land which they had searched for the children of Israel, saying, "The land which we have gone through to search it out is a land that eats up the inhabitants thereof, for all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. For there we saw giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants, which descend from the giants, so that we seemed in our sight like grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight." And the note says the giants were so cruel that they spoiled and killed one another, and those that came to them. The giants killed people who came to them. So that is the 1560 Geneva Bible, Numbers 13. So I want to mention a couple of things. One is this word Anak translates as giants. Well, to this day in modern Hebrew, a giant is called an Anak, and it comes from this. And when it's even an adjective. When you say something is gigantic, you say ze anak. It's gigantic. It's like a problem that is gigantic is anak. So it's just a fascinating example of how biblical Hebrew kind of merges into modern Hebrew. But at the same time, the word comes from the name of these people, that these spies, these princes of the children of Israel, very, poor, weak group of random nomads wandering around in the desert listening to Moses and God, they're anticipating being sent in to fight, to go against, to occupy this land that God said, I'm going to send you in there. It's going to be your land. And they're like, holy cow, these people are gigantic, and the cities are walled. You've got to understand what that means, you guys. It means that these spies, these princes sent to look into this country, were not seeing people like themselves, right? They weren't seeing other nomads who live in tents and are on the move. They were seeing cities that were great, meaning very large, and that they were seeing walled cities. And you've got to understand what this means in ancient terms. A walled city is very difficult for people who are not, who don't have an empire behind them, like Egypt or Babylon or later, Greece or Rome, to conquer. They don't have battering rams. They don't have, I've been reading this wonderful book called Jews versus Rome, which is about Jewish revolts in 200 years of trying to, resist the Roman Empire. And it talks a lot about ancient forms of waging war. And the war, if you're a nomadic people with your sheep and your goats and your women and your children and your babies in your tents, right, and probably barely any weapons, right? These people fled slavery. They probably weren't even allowed to have weapons in Egypt as slaves. Who knows what they've managed to forge for themselves in the desert, but probably there's not a lot of iron. This was before steel, or there could have been bronze. It was after the Bronze Age, but God knows what they've got. Maybe some daggers, maybe some spears, maybe some shields, maybe, but they don't have horses. Probably there weren't horses at that time, I don't think, in that area. And so they come up against a walled city. What are you going to do? it takes weeks and months to starve a walled city, which is how you bring a walled city down, if you can't breach it with battering rams. But it also takes battering rams, which require a lot of machinery, catapults, and it takes your own um, army with supplies and food, right? To sit outside the walls of a walled city, long enough to starve out the inhabitants, which is how you bring down a walled city most often, if you can't breach the walls with battering rams. Those are the two ways to attack a walled city: starvation and battering rams. Well, children of Israel really had the ability to bring about none of those things. And so they're going in and going, holy cow, how are we going to do this? Then there's the stature of these people. They're not just in walled cities, they're giants, right? And these princes are saying, hey, these people are so big and so well fed and well grown. I mean, maybe they were just a normal human range of, like the Japanese in World War II were smaller on average than Americans, because Americans had better nutrition, right? But, that's normal human variation. But maybe they really were giants. I mean, this is the second or third time the Bible mentions there were giants in the earth at that time. Maybe there were people who were really big. I mean, there are weird skeletons that are, found to this day for real of like gigantic, unusually large humans. And there are tribes, populations in Africa that are, substantially taller than average people in Europe or North America. So who knows whether these were actually giants, the kind of people that may have died out, we have no knowledge of, but who knows? Humanity was young. There may have been all kinds of variation. Or if they were just so well fed and well armed and well equipped that they seemed like giants to these poor, sad, weird nomads wandering around in the desert listening to an invisible force. That's what they were up against, but they definitely are bringing back a report of a country that is fertile. And that's where you get this description of the river Eshkol. And again, to this day in modern Hebrew, an Eshkol is a grapefruit, or Eshkolit. And it's actually even a brand name, I think, still for food, certain kinds of packaged food in Israel. But they cut down this cluster of grapes, and it's massive, and they bring it back. It's evidence that it's a very, very fertile land. It's a good land. So it doesn't eat the people who invade it like they starve to death because it's a good, fertile land. The princes who report back and say this land devours people who go in there, they're talking about the military, that it's intimidating in military terms. They don't see how they can beat the inhabitants, how they can occupy this land militarily. But I also want you to think about that beautiful expression, a land that flows with milk and honey. And I'm going to say it in Hebrew, and we'll read it in the Hebrew. Eretz zavat chalav udvash. It's a land, Eretz, to this day, Eretz Israel means the land of Israel. Zavat, flowing. Chalav, milk. I think chalav is actually the same root as halva, Arabic, but I need to check. I think it is. Udvash, and I think dvash is such a beautiful word. It sounds like what it is. Dvash is honey. And there's actually a song that goes, Eretz zavat chalav, chalav udvash, Eretz zavat chalav, chalav udvash, Eretz zavat chalav, chalav udvash. Anyway, modern Hebrew, they still sing that song. And it comes from Numbers 13, where we are now. So that notion that it's a land flowing with milk and honey, the promised land, the land that God gave people, it has become like the essence phrase of, not just the holy land that will always nurture people, but really kind of a metaphor for God's abundance, right? That God doesn't just give you enough to barely sustain you, there's going to be so much milk and honey that it flows through the streets. It flows over the earth. It overflows the water, the cup. And just to foreshadow a little bit with the New Testament, you remember, I think in the New Testament, there's a metaphor that, God gives people, again, not just enough, but so much that it's like a container that is overflowing and spilling over to, to the surrounding, falling onto the floor, like grain falling onto the floor. So this notion of God's incredible abundance. Now, let's go into, okay, well, Jackass Whiskey and Pinto Beans has a lot to say about warfare in the classical period or the antiquity. Trebuchets and ballistas were siege weapons that could bring down walls. Don't know when they were invented. The Romans had them. Well, that is interesting to know. And Egypt had chariots. There were horses. Well, thank you. You're right. There were, silly me, there were horses. And in Egyptian iconography, you do see horses. Certainly Babylonians had horses. I don't know if there were horses in the land of Israel at this time, but check, let me know. But I'm quite sure that our poor nomads did not have horses. It could be that they were pursued by the Egyptian army on horseback, but I am pretty sure that they did not have horses. Nonetheless, they're still totally ill-equipped. So, lots of observations. The scholars saw the popes of the 11th century, the ones who would be in power, and Satan was released from the bottomless pit in Revelation. Well, interesting timelines. I don't want to get too into the speculative timelines about Revelation because I can't prove them, and we're not doing the New Testament yet. We're here in the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, a long time before. So let's move on to the Hebrew, which we always like to share. And let's see if I can share the screen with the Hebrew. Nope, it will not let me. So I will just read to you from the Hebrew. Bamidbar. All right. And you can follow along by going to chabad.org and just Numbers 13. Very easy to find. All right. Vaidaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. And you know what that means, you guys, because you've heard it so often. And the Lord spoke to Moses to say, Shlachna, please send. Shlach lecha, send for yourself. Anashim v'yaturu et eretz Canaan, and they'll scout out the land of Canaan. Asher ani noten livnei Israel, which I give to the children, the sons of Israel. Ish echad, one man, le mate avotav, each for his father's tribe. Tishlechu kol nasi bahem, send all the princes among them. End quote. Vayishlachotam, and sent them Moses, mimidbar Paran, from the desert of Paran, al Piranai, literally on the mouth of God, meaning on the word of God, because God said so, right? Kulam anashim roshei bnei Israel, all of them people who were the heads of the children of Israel, Hema, they were. Ve'ele shmotam, and these were their names, lemate, Reuven, for the tribe of Reuben, Shamua ben Zakur, Shamua the son of Zakur. Le Mate Shimon, for the tribe of Simon, Shaphat ben Hori, Shaphat the son of Hori. Le Mate Yehuda, for the tribe of Judah, and from the root of Judah comes the word Jew, of course. Caleb ben Yefune, Caleb the son of Yefune, and he's the one who will play the role, the positive role coming up. Le Mate Yisachar, from the tribe to the tribe of Yisachar, Yigal ben Yosef, Yigal the son of Joseph. Lemate Ephraim, to the tribe of Ephraim. Hoshea bin Nun, Hoshea the son of Nun. Lemate Binyamin, to the tribe of Benjamin, for the tribe of Benjamin. Palti ben Raphu, Palti the son of Raphu. Lemate Zevulun, to the tribe of Zebulun. Gadiel ben Sodi, Gadiel the son of Sodi. Lemate Yosef, to the tribe of Joseph. Lemate Menashe, for the tribe of Menashe. Gadi ben Susi, Gadi the son of Susi. Lemate Dan, to the tribe of Dan. Amiel ben Gemali, Amiel the son of Gemali. Lemate Asher, for the tribe of Asher. Stur ben Michael, Setur the son of Michael. Lemate Naphtali, for the tribe of Naphtali. Nachbi ben Vafsi, Nachbi the son of Vafsi, and that was the one I had trouble with in the pre-Elizabethan English. Lemate Gad, for the tribe of Gad. Geuel ben Maki, Geuel the son of Maki. Ele Shmot ha'anashim, these are the names of the people. Asher shalach Moshe, which Moses sent. Latur et haaretz, vayikra Moshe, to scout the land. And Moshe called leHoshea bin Nun Yehoshua. He called Hoshea the son of Nun Joshua. Veishlach otam Moshe, and sent them Moses. Moses sent them latur et eretz Canaan, to scout out the land of Canaan. Vayomer alehem aluze, and he said to them, go up this way. Alu ze, go up. La'alot is to go up. You still say, I make aliyah to Israel. I go up to Israel, meaning to immigrate there, because I've explained this before. The promised land is seen as the top of the world, the highest point in the world, because it's the closest to God. So go up there, even though geographically they're probably not always going up, but probably at this point they are, because they're going from the desert up into the mountains, into the hills. Alu ze, go up this way. Banegev, in the Negev, ve'alitem et hahar, and you will go up the mountain. Ur item, and you'll see et haaretz, the land. Mahu, what is it? Ve'et ha'am hayoshev aleha, and the people who sit on her, who settle on her. Hechazakhu, or ha'rafeh, hame'athu, are they many, or are they strong? How strong are they? Are they many or few? Imrav, are they few or many? Are they strong or weak? Are they few or many? Uma haaretz asher hu, and what is the land? The asher hu yoshev ba, which they settle on her. Hatovah hu, is it good? Im ra'ah, or bad, evil. Uma ha'arim, and what are the cities? Asher hu yoshev bahena, in which they reside. Ha be-machanim, are they in camps? Im be-mivtzarim, or in fortresses. Uma haaretz, and what is literally the earth, the soil? Hashmenahu, is it fat, like literally oil, like shamen? Shamenet is fat or oil. Someone who's fat, you say they're shmenim, they're literally fat. Is it fat? Im raza, or is it thin? Hayesh ba'etz, is there a tree in her? Im ein vehit chazaktim, or not. And v'hit chazaktim, make yourself strong. Chazak is strength. You remember lehit means it's reflexive. Make yourselves strong. V'hit chazaktim, be of good cheer, right? Be courageous. Velakachtem mipri, and take from the fruit haaretz, of the land. Ve'hayamim yamei bekurei anavim, take from the fruit of the land, and the days were the days of the first grapes beginning to ripen. I just think that's so beautiful and so specific. That's one of those like literary phrases that really makes me think that something real happened here, because that detail, oh, the first grapes were beginning to ripen. If you were just making this up, I just don't believe you would come up with exactly that detail. V'ya'alu, and they went up. V'yaturu, and they explored. They scouted. Et haaretz, the land. Mimidbar Tzin, from the desert of Tzin, ad Rehov, till, excuse me, Rehov, and that literally means street, but it's a place name. Levo Hamat, at the entrance to Hamat. V'ya'alu, but Negev, and they went up in the Negev. The translation is in the south. Ve'yavo ad Hebron, and they came to Hebron. V'sham Achiman Sheshai, and there were Ahiman, Sheshai, V'talmai, Yelidei Ha'anak, and Talmai, the children of the giant. Ve'Hebron Sheva Shanim, and Hebron had been built 7 years. Niv Neta Lifnei Zoan Mitzrayim, before Zoan of Egypt. So what that's saying, it's important, Hebron, which is literally a city that still exists, right? Our family actually has glass from Hebron from when I was a little girl and we lived in Israel. We went to Hebron. They were hand-blowing glass. I'll never forget it. Hebron still exists. It's ancient, ancient city. And what this is saying is even this city was old. It was built even earlier than one of the old cities of an old civilization, which is Egypt. So even when this was compiled thousands of years ago, Hebron was old. And they're saying it's well established, right? It's not a, brand new town. V'yavou ad Nachal Eshkol, and they came to the river Nachal. This is translated Valley of Eshkol. That's really interesting because the Geneva Bible also says river. Eshkol ve'yichretu, and they cut misham, from there, zmora, a branch, ve'eshkol anavim echad, with one cluster of grapes. Ve'yisaehu, and they carried it, they bore it, bamot bishnaim, between two people, umin harimonim, umin hate'enim, and they and from the pomegranates and figs, meaning they carried also pomegranates and figs. Lamakom hahu, to that place, kara nachal, they called it the Valley Eshkol of Eshkol, and again it could be translated River Eshkol. Al odot ha'eshkol, on because of the cluster of grapes, essentially. Asher kartu misham, which they cut from there, Bnei Israel, the children of Israel. Veyashuvu, and they returned, mitur haaretz, from scouting the land, miketz arbaim yom, at the end of 40 days. Now remember that phrase, 40 days and 40 nights, it could be literal, but it's often metaphorical, and it just means a lot. It's a magical number, 40. Remember, the children of Israel are to wander in the desert for 40 years. So it's one of those magical and kind of metaphorical numbers. Vayelchu, and they went, Vayavohu el Moshe, and they came to Moses, Ve'el Aharon, and toward Aaron, Ve'el Kol Adat Bnei Israel, and to all the congregation of the children of Israel, El Midbar Paran, in the desert of Paran, Kadesha, to Kadesh, Ve'yashivu otam davar, and they brought back toward them a word, a report, Ve'et kol ha'edah, and to the entire congregation, Ve'yar'um et pri haaretz, and they showed them the fruit of the land. Vayisperu lo, and they told them, but this is a very interesting verb. Lesaper is more like to tell a story. Sipur is story. So and from having heard it so often, it's a different verb than le'emor, like, God said le'emor. It's not just to say, it's got an element of storytelling. So it's kind of, they were starting to narrate, maybe embellish, right? Like it's the first word that lets you know these guys are not really reliable. V'yisaprulo, and they story told to him, vayomru, and they said, Banu el haaretz asher shalachtanu, we came to the land to which you sent us, v'gam zavat chalav, and also it is flowing with milk, udvash, and honey, who it is vizepria, and this is her fruit. It's quite beautiful that Eretz is feminine. Ephes ki az ha'am, however, the people who inhabit the land, hayoshev ba'aretz, who are settled in the land, ve'ha'arim, and in the cities, betsurot gdolot, are mighty, they're very big, me'od, very big, and the cities are extremely huge and fortified. V'gam yelidei ha'anak, and also the children of the giant, ra'inu sham, we saw there. We even saw the offspring of the giant. So the notion that it's singular, the giant, it really suggests that, that it was common knowledge that some people descended from giants, people who would be considered gigantic by other normal statured people. Amalek Yoshev be'eretz HaNegev. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the Negev in the south. Ve'hachiti, and the Hittites, ve'hayebusi, and the Jebusites, ve'ha'emori, and the Amorites, Yoshev Bahar, settle in the mountain, ve'hakna Ani, and the Canaanites, Yoshev al Hayam, sit or are settled on the ocean along the coasts, ve'al yad hayarden, and alongside the Jordan River. So both coasts, right? So it's settled. They're saying it's settled. There are people there all across the country, the Amalekites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Jebusites. It is fully settled. It is not an empty land. There are people there. They are going to fight us. The Yahas Kalev, and Caleb silenced Etaam, the people, El Moshe, Vayomer, and they translated Caleb silenced the people to hear about Moses. I think it's more like he silenced the people toward Moses, like he silenced them, on behalf of Moses, so he could speak to Moses. Vayomer, and he said, Allah na'aleh, we can surely go up. Yarashnu ota ki yachol nuchal la. I'm going to read that sentence to you again because it's so beautiful in Hebrew. Listen. V'yahas Kalev et ha'am, and he silenced Caleb, the people, el Moshe, toward Moses. Vayomer, and he said, Allah na'aleh. So repetition of that same root, Allah na'aleh, going up, we can go up. Allah or alo na'aleh, verashnu ota, and take possession of her, ki yachol nochal, and again, repetition of the root, because possibility it will be for us to be possible, la, to her. Ki yachol nochal la, because it will be possible that we will be able to do this to her. It's repetitive for emphasis. It's so beautiful. We're going to go up for sure, and we can do it because we can do it to her. Okay? So it's absolute certainty. This guy totally trusts God. Vehanashim asher alu imo, and the people who had gone up with him, amrulo, said to him, Lo nochal, we shan't be able, again that word nochal, lo nochal, we will not be able, la'alot el ha'am, to go up toward the people, the land. We're unable to go up against the people, el ha'am, toward the people, ki chazakhu mimenu, because they are stronger, literally it is stronger than we are. Vayetziu dibat haaretz, and they went out, they spread an evil report about the land, asher taru ota, which they had scouted, el bnei Israel, to the children of Israel, lemor, haaretz asher avarnu, that is to say, the land which we passed over, crossed over her, latur ota, to scout her out, eretz ochelet yoshveha, is a land that eats those who settle in it, its inhabitants. Yoshvehu, v'chol ha'am asher ra'inu, and all the people which we saw, betocha, within her, anshe midot, are men of stature. V'sham ra'inu et hanephilim, and there we saw the Nephilim, different word from Anakim. These are the Nephilim, right? From way back from Genesis. Whoa, creepy. These are the giants who fell in love with the daughters of men and fornicated with them, possibly fallen angels, right? That's some conjecture. And there we saw the Nephilim, Bnei Anak, the sons of Anak. Again, that root, Anak, giant. Min hanephilim, bnei anak min hanephilim, from the giants, from the Nephilim, venehi be'einenu kechagavim, and in our eyes we seemed like grasshoppers, v'chen hayinu be'enehem, and thus we were in their eyes. We felt like grasshoppers, and we were, seen as if we were grasshoppers by these giants who were the children of the Nephilim, who, way back in Genesis, they were walking around the earth in a creepy way, falling in love with daughters of men and fornicating with them. Not human, right? These people are not just saying they're strong men who are tall and they live in walled cities. These scouts are saying they are supernaturally freaky, and we seem like grasshoppers. So I'm going to read, we only have a few more minutes, unfortunately. I'm going to go a little bit over time. Lots of people are listening, which is really nice. And I'm going to read the Revised Standard Version, see if there's any mistranslation, as usual. But I just want you to know what happened here. Basically, everyone but Caleb, who came back from the land of Israel, what would become the land of Israel, is kind of spinning because they're scared and they don't trust God. And they don't trust that God is going to bring them in and overcome all of these strong people in their walled cities. They think that they have to do it alone as humans, and they're saying we can't do it as humans. So they spin the report even more negatively than it would have organically been. Oh, these people aren't just really big. They're like supernatural descendant of the Nephilim. They're so scary and freaky. We were like grasshoppers. They're so big. We can't go up against them. They're too strong. And Caleb, who trusts God, is saying, Yachol, yachol, yachol. We can. La'alot, we can go up. We can overcome. We can do it because he trusts God. Yachol, nochal, we can, it is possible. Yachol, nochal. He totally trusts God. So this is the lesson of this chapter. You've got people who are like, we can't do it alone. It's not humanly possible. They are too strong. And you've got Caleb saying, we've got God. What are you worried about? God said he'd give us this land. He's going to deliver these people into our hands. Doesn't matter that they're so gigantic. God is bigger. We've got Yahweh. We've got the God who took us out of Israel out of Egypt, with a mighty hand. So that's the dynamic. That's the dialectic you've got here. So let's see what the Revised Standard Version says. So again, the Revised Standard Version has a subheadline, which is not there in the original, and it is spies sent into Canaan. So these weren't exactly spies. And it's so interesting because this chapter in my children's Bible, I always thought they were spies. They sent spies in. And that's kind of exciting and kind of creepy, but they're really not spies. They're princes sent to scout. They're scouts, right? So they're explorers. So it's a little less underhanded in the original. So here we have the Lord said to Moses, send men to spy out the land of Canaan, which I give to the people of Israel. And then they name the various princes. These were the names of the men whom Moses sent to spy out the land. And again, let's take a look at what the verb is that they used instead of spy in the Hebrew. To scout the land. And in Hebrew, it's asher shalach Moshe latour, to explore, you know. So they're not really spies in the original. But the Revised Standard Version, the modern Catholic translation says, Moses sent them to spy out the land of Canaan. Again, much more underhanded when they're really just exploring in the Hebrew. And said to them, go up into the Negev yonder and go up into the hill country and see what the land is and whether the people who dwell in it are strong or weak, whether they are few or many, and whether the land that they dwell in is good or bad, and whether the cities that they dwell in are camps or strongholds, literally camps or fortified like forts in the original. And whether the land is rich or poor and whether there is wood in it or not. Interesting. In the Hebrew, it's trees. Is there a tree in it or not? Be of good courage and bring some of the fruit of the land. Now the time was the season of the first ripe grapes. So I just want to share the difference in the tone, the tenor. It's much more transactional and much less miraculous. I mean, in the original Hebrew, they're going up against fortified cities, right? Giant walled cities. In the modern translation, they're just strongholds. What's a stronghold? It's kind of vague, right? So it's much more miraculous if you're just a bunch of random nomads going up against giant walled cities. And I just think it's interesting that they translated whether there is wood in it or not. It's in the modern English, the land of Israel Canaan is being treated much more like a natural resource to exploit. Whereas in the Hebrew, it's like, a sense of beauty. Is there a tree in it? Is it going to sustain life? Right. Whereas this reads much more like, oh, you're sending the scout to find the, crops so that we can send in an army and they can have enough to eat. It's much more transactional, as I said. So they went up and spied out the land from the wilderness of Zin to Rehov near the entrance of Hamat, and they went up in the Negev and came to Hebron, and Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, the descendants of Anak, were there. Hebron was built 7 years before Zoan in Egypt. And they came to the valley of Eshcol and cut down there a branch with a single cluster of grapes, and they carried it on a pole between two of them. They brought also some pomegranates and figs. That place was called the Valley of Eshcol because of the cluster which the men of Israel cut down from there. And then the other subheadline, which doesn't exist in the original, is the report of the spies. Again, much more clinical, where it's really princes coming back from an exploration to share an account of what they saw, right? So at the end of 40 days, they returned from spying out the land. In the Hebrew, it's scouting or really exploring. And they came to Moshe and Aaron and to all the congregation of the people of Israel in the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh. They brought back word to them and to all the congregation and showed them the fruit of the land. And they told him, we came to the land to which you sent us. It flows with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. Yet the people who dwell in the land are strong, and the cities are fortified, literally walled in the original, and very large. And besides, we saw the descendants of Anak there. That's correct, the children of Anak, the giant. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the Negev, the Hittites, the Jebusites, the Amorites dwell in the hill country, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea and along the Jordan. So that's pretty literally translated. But Caleb quieted the people before Moses, fair enough, and said, let us go up at once and occupy it, for we are well able to overcome it. That's not an adequate translation. Let's see what Numbers 30 is in the Hebrew. In the Hebrew, it is very different. Caleb v'yahas Kalev et ha'am. Caleb silenced the people toward Moses. Vayomer alona ale, and he said, we can surely go up. V'yarashnu ota, and take possession of it. Ki yachol nochal la, because it is possible that we will be able to do it. We can indeed overcome it. And again, let's see how they translate it in the English. Let us go up at once and occupy it, for we are well able to overcome it. Well, so there's a word to which I very, very much object, and it is occupy, because an occupying force isn't permanent and it doesn't belong there. And I think it's a very tendentious word to use, and very anti-Zionist, basically. I think it's a sneaky word, and you don't occupy something permanently. Whereas in Hebrew, the accurate translation is "and take possession of it." Let's see what it is in the Revised Standard Version, line 30. But the men who went up with him said, we be not able to go up against, the Amalekites dwell in the south country, and the Hittites. Then Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, let us go up at once and possess it, for undoubtedly we shall overcome it. That's much more accurate. The modern translations. So in the Hebrew and in the Revised Standard, they're possessing the land. It is their possession, right? They belong to the land belongs to them. In the English modern translation, they are occupying it. They're an occupying army, for we are well able to overcome it. And again, it does, in the modern Revised Standard Version, it doesn't have that overtone of like divine providence. It's like we are able to overcome it. Whereas, in the Hebrew, it's the possibility is possible, okay? Like the universe will make it possible. Then the men who had gone up with him said, we are not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we. So they brought to the people of Israel an evil report of the land, which they had spied out, saying, again, it's not really spied out, it's exploring, saying, or touring, or reviewing, scouting, saying, the land through which we have gone to spy it out. And again, spy, it's like it's not theirs, right? Whereas in the original Hebrew, they're looking at it as their own possession, which God gave them. They're looking at it. They're exploring it. They're scouting it, right? Is a land that devours its inhabitants, and all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. That's correct. And there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who come from the Nephilim, and we seemed to ourselves like grasshoppers, and so we seemed to them. And again, that's not really that well translated, because it's in our eyes we seemed like grasshoppers, and also in their eyes. So it's much more about perception. It's much more vivid. And the English modern translation just leaves out our eyes and their eyes. So that is our reading of these three different translations, or in the original and then the two translations. Now, Jackass Whiskey is full of information. Are there any cedars in Lebanon now? There were towering cedars, and we know that the Hebrew Bible talks about the cedars of Lebanon. They were famous. They were used in shipbuilding. They were exported. The cedars of Lebanon. I think it's worth checking. I know there are forests still, both in Israel and I'm pretty sure in Lebanon. And let's see. Jackass Whiskey also says something interesting: occupy or take possession. It doesn't really matter. It's the way of the world. Well, I would gently disagree with you, Jackass Whiskey, but thank you for being such an active contributor to our discussion. I think it's one thing if you take possession of a house, you have title to it. It's another if you just occupy it. That feels much more temporary to me, and like you don't have the right. And what's very clear from this story, which is, I think, interestingly, why it's so hard to find, is that if this story is true, the children of Israel do, you know, have the title, have the right to inhabit the land. I'm not saying they should do anything that violates international law, but it's a story about people being promised a land and taking possession of land. Um, oh, that's Roscoe, our good friend Roscoe, who has been our friend for years, says it's funny, you have people today who think Lewis and Clark were collecting plant samples. They were scouts too. That is a really good analogy, Roscoe, to Lewis and Clark. That's much more like what these princes were doing. And you don't get that vibe in the English translation, the modern English translation, pardon me. Excuse me. Lewis and Clark were not sent to spy out the land and to occupy it. They were sent to scout it and bring back a report of it, and for it to be inhabited by a new population. And you could say the United States didn't have the right to, and that Native people lived there, and so on and so forth. But I'm not trying to be harsh, but the story of history is the story of different populations taking possession of the same land. And there's always been someone previously who inhabited it. But, we're not saying about, most people don't say of Lewis and Clark, oh, they were just spying out other people's land, and then the United States, occupied it. By now, we live in the United States. We have title to it. It's our land. I'm not saying there weren't injustices on the way or that we didn't, take possession of other people's land, but we live in the United States. It's our nation. It's a sovereign nation. And that's the tenor of the original Hebrew. They're not occupying, they're not spying, it's not sneaky, it's not underhanded. Certainly these princes want to come back alive, but they are going to look at the land that God promised them. They bring back giant fruit. It's beautiful. They say it's flowing with milk and honey, but the people are gigantic. The cities are walled. And then Caleb, who has faith, says, we can go up and take possession of it. Surely we can. We can do it. God is with us. We can take possession, the possession that God has promised, that's always been promised to them for this whole story, for all these books. It's the same story. It hasn't deviated. I just want you to notice that. It's not like other, Odysseus, right? Or the Iliad. A lot of different things happen in the Iliad, and a lot of different things happen in the Odyssey. There's subplots, there's detours. Really, one thing has been happening so far in this story. And honestly, as a student of literature, it's pretty stunning to me how consistent it's been from the very beginning. It's got a telos, which is a Latin word that means it's driving toward a specific conclusion. That's where the word teleology comes from. It's not meandering. It's not taking detours. From the very beginning, God created the world, and then he created human beings, and then he created a family, Abraham's family, and then he created a people, and then he saved the people out of bondage, and then they went in bondage again, or he saved Joseph, and then they went in bondage again. He saved them out of bondage. He schlepped them over to the desert. He's preparing them to enter the land. This whole time, it's been one direction, toward the land of Israel. This people that God is like creating out of dirt, right? Who are going to be the way for all the nations of the world to be blessed. I explained that at the start of this reading. It's not obnoxious. It's just the role that God tasks the children of Israel with, out of which came, if you're Christian, Jesus of Nazareth eventually to bless all the peoples of the world if they want it. But there's one story, right? There's one direction that God is bringing this people that he created out of dirt and random, worshipers of rocks and stones. And it is going the direction of occupying the land of Israel forever. I'm sorry. I never used to be a Zionist, with any certainty, but it is pretty striking that this story is about that. And it is about that and about that and about that with incredible detail and incredible focus. And when God isn't bringing them closer to taking possession of the land of Israel, it's because they're messing up as human beings. It's not because God is changing his mind. So, and these are obnoxious people, they keep rebelling and resisting, but God just wants to get them there in some sort of real alignment and relationship with him. So take it or leave it, you guys. I didn't invent this. Jews didn't say they were the chosen people. This is a sacred text. If you're Christian, it's your sacred text too. This is, Yahweh saying, I'm doing this to you guys, whether you like it or not. If you don't like it, you don't have to come along, but I'm going to wipe you out with fire, and I'm going to, destroy you. And the ones who are willing to take the burden of chosenness can come along, and you're going to go up there and you're going to go against these giants and Nephilim and walled cities, and you are going to prevail, because that's my plan. So that's it. You can hate that all you want, world, but that's what this text says. I feel like it's a sacred text. I feel like humans couldn't have come up with this story told in this way. The Hebrew alone is impossible to explain. I've talked about that, how the Hebrew does things that you can't even understand in human terms, packing multiple meanings and so on. But take it or leave it. But don't tell me that, we showed up in 1948, because that's not what happened. All right. I had my say about that. And I'm not trying to be political. I'm just trying to be faithful to this work of literature, and not pretend it doesn't say what it says, which is you'll go up and take possession of it. You're going to prevail against these giants and these walled cities. We'll see if they do. It's not going to be that easy, you guys. There's drama ahead. All right, we've come to the end of our time. Thank you for listening. Wow, things are definitely perking up after all those chapters about how to string the curtains of the tent of meeting. No disrespect, God. But I am going to let you go. Roscoe is making some good points about Gaza. Yes, we should all obey international law. We could go down a million rabbit holes with that, Roscoe. I mean, it's very tough. You've got to imagine, what would America be doing if there were people along the southern border of Mexico who kept firing rockets into Texas and Arizona, and, parasailing into Arizona and murdering the equivalent of 10,000 people, per the population size, and raping them and abducting the babies. I mean, the U.S. would not sit still for that. So it's a very vexed question, and I'll just do Roscoe the justice of showing you his observation, which a lot of people probably resonate to. Citizen 77 is feeling a little differently. We all, it's a very difficult problem, but these days, I don't hate you, Roscoe. You're wonderful. You're our friend. But these days, I just think it's so interesting and kind of metaphysical that everyone else has a right to exist. And this people who have such a unique and complex history don't have a right to exist, don't have a right to say this is our country. Morocco gets to be an Arab Muslim country. Lebanon gets to be an Arab country. Saudi Arabia gets to be an Arab country. Yemen gets to be an Arab country. We could go on and on and on, but only this one little group of people is not allowed to have a nation, a language, a culture, borders. I didn't used to feel like I felt unequivocally that they did, but now I do. And may there be peace. May we all get along. I will stop there. And you can think what you think about it, but it's very, very interesting to see what the original text actually says. And it's very interesting that the original text is mistranslated in the modern versions. So we will stop there. And guys, go to 1560 Geneva Bible read by Dr. Naomi Wolf on Substack, or I think it's Geneva Bible read by Dr. Naomi Wolf. And there's a big debate going on in the comments, lots of people having lots of opinions, but we have to unfortunately stop there and um, pick it up with our next reading, which I'll try to do tomorrow. But in the meantime, please go, if these readings are important to you at all, please, if you can afford to, go to Substack and subscribe. We have like 2% paid subscribers to free subscribers, and it does cost money to produce and distribute and host these videos. Um, and it does take time and it does take preparation, and I clear my schedule for them. But I have a team that I pay, producers, editors, graphic designer, distribution, hosting, and the only way I can keep doing it and clearing such a big part of my schedule for it is with your support. So I always hate to ask, but this is important to keep our doors open and keep these readings coming. If you can afford to, please become a subscriber on Substack or send a donation to Daily Cloud. And if you can't, God bless you, and we'll keep the paywall down so that you can keep getting these for free. But if you can, please, please do subscribe. It does help so much. And share these, follow them. Amazingly, we're in the top 20 for Judaism podcasts in a number of countries and in the top 100 and even more. I'm amazed. But there it is. Love you guys. God bless you. And let's pick it up tomorrow. I'll try at the same time, 5 o'clock Eastern. Bye, everyone. Take care. We'll pick up